Welcome inside the Charlotte Checkers podcast. We've got something a little different, a little new for you guys. We're going to go video with this one. TJ Shalott, voice of the Charlotte Checkers. I am here with Mr. Riley Nash. Riley, thanks so much for taking the time to come on out and chat with the fans. And, you know, we have to start. The one area I want to start with you is you're a guy that played here at the beginning of your career. You were here for 3 years, made your way into the NHL, long NHL career. Why Charlotte? Why did you come back this season?
Lots changed since that first time we were here. Now married with a couple kids, and we had a very, very crazy year last year, and opportunities weren't really jumping off the page for me. So I reconnected with Bobby Sanguinetti, who's now the assistant coach. I shot him a text message one afternoon near the end of August and said, "Hey, what's going on down there? Do you guys need a guy? I'd love to come back if that's an option for you guys on your end." And ended up working out. Obviously, I grew up here. You know, it's the first place I played pro. Kind of, you know, you want to say became a man, but you know, I left college, started my career here. Did a lot of growing up, and I just fell in love with the city. Jordy was an assistant coach at that point in time, and he was a guy that, you know, when I needed to hear something, he kind of knew how to speak to me, and so that relationship was already very strong. And then Jared Stahl, obviously being the other assistant coach, we lived together my first go around here. So
okay.
There was a lot of connections, and then Zach Dalpe being the captain. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of good people, a lot of you know, they'd won the championship a couple years ago. Just the vibe that you got from this team seemed like it was more family than it was hockey team, and that's something that I was definitely interested in. You know, having two little ones, the city of Charlotte being what it is, one of my favorite places I've ever played, American League, NHL, all around. So having the opportunity to come back, if it worked out, we were really eager to jump at it, and it did. So we're happy to be here.
When you talk about Stahl and you talk about Sanguinetti, is that a little weird dynamic now? Former teammates of yours that are pretty much your bosses at this point?
The first couple of weeks were pretty funny, just seeing them, because, you know, they go through a transition too. I think this is Sang's first coaching gig. Obviously, Jared's been at it for a couple of years. He's been down in Orlando, but they have, you know, they change their voice. They go from player voice joking around to their coaching voice. And so I had to hold back a couple chuckles first team meetings. They're drawing up drills and all that. And it's just a very different dynamic. So it's a lot of fun seeing them take on a new task and a new endeavor, and seeing them do well after playing. But it was still pretty comical the first couple of weeks.
It's almost like when you grow up and all of a sudden you start seeing your friends become parents, and you're kind of sitting there going, I remember doing some things that we probably shouldn't talk about with these people, and here they are being parents and being adults. It's like a different role. It's weird looking at them.
That's exactly it. I think that's how a lot of people look at me. I have 2 kids now, and they say, I don't think they believe it. So, yeah, my kids are still alive, thank goodness, and they're
Number
doing
one
well.
goal.
Yeah, they're doing well. So, it's funny seeing that whole dynamic. You know, you don't really expect to grow old until it's happening before your eyes, and things change, and it's really exciting to see those guys thrive in their new positions.
When you say old, you're not that old just yet, but you're certainly ancient as far as the way of hockey anyway. But you're having one of the best seasons of your pro career. You have more points this year with the Charlotte Checkers than you've ever had at any level in your pro career, going all the way back until when it started. What's been the key this year? I mean, well over 50 points now with a 2-point night just last night. What's been the key? Has it been that comfortability, that familiarity with the players, with just everything? Has something kind of unlatched with you this year? What has it been?
It's hard to put my finger on. I'll go back to last year. I was in the NHL, bounced around from a couple teams, and then I got sent down to Syracuse for about a month and a half, 2 months before the playoffs, before going back up to Tampa for their playoff run. But mentally, I was having a difficult year, finding, you know, just being on different teams. I'm not a guy that transitions well with that. Being comfortable, I prefer to be friends, people that I know, get comfortable in the locker room, and then it kind of transitions to the ice. And so it was a difficult year last year. And when I went to Syracuse, I found the group there. I found pressure was kind of off. I could just start playing again. And, I started playing well, got some confidence, and, felt better and better, started making plays. Stuff that I used to do that just came naturally to me. But over the years, that just being kind of third, fourth line guy, and then my minutes being decreased and being just a penalty killer kind of ground the skill and just my hockey sense out of me a little bit. And I think that's partially on me for letting that happen instead of, sticking true to who I am and playing my game. So I think I kind of found that energy, putting up some more points, which obviously is builds the confidence, but it just allows you to play a lot more free and natural and feel the game instead of, everything feeling so forced. So I tried to carry that over to this year, and so far it's been really great. It helps when you're playing with a lot of really talented players like we have. So it's been a good year so far, and still lots to go, hopefully.
How hard is it for a player to constantly be on the move like that? I think about in my own personal life, how many moves I've made in different states I've lived in just a short period of time. But for someone who has a pro career that spanned over 13 years and you've been around, I mean, how difficult is that to not really know where home is and to not have your feet firmly planted? And, today you could be here, tomorrow you could be the next place. You could be the next place. How difficult is that on a player, family or no family?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. But I think you'll find a lot of people definitely struggle with that aspect of it. That's the business side of things, as they talk about. But that definitely bleeds into your personal life. And, if you're not comfortable being where you are, how are you going to be comfortable on the ice kind of thing? So it just leads to that. And hockey's such a confidence game. When you can totally see when a player has his confidence, has some swagger, that they're a totally different player. And so I think that kind of got sucked out of me a little bit, zapped that. And so it was definitely very challenging. Struggled off the ice, and it was just one of those years, I had my first kid, and I was, really, that was probably my silver lining. It was just being able to get away, or try and get away as much as possible, because I know if that was happening earlier on in my career and I was going back to an empty apartment with just myself, it would have been extremely difficult. So fortunate for my family and fortunate for the people around me. I was able to get out of it and end up being here. And it's also a good learning experience too for myself to not let myself get so attached, so ground down by this game that we play. You got to find a way to leave it here, good, bad, whatever happens, and not let it become who you are. So it's taken me a while to do that, but I feel like I'm finally turning the page on that. So
it's a tough thing. It's not like a traditional 9 to 5 where once you punch the clock and you go home, it's very difficult to leave that, right? I mean, this is a unique job. Most people are going to work, they're doing their work, they're leaving it at work, they're not even taking their laptop home, they're not opening up anything when they go home. But in the game of hockey, I mean, it's tough after, a game when you get home at 10:30, 11 o'clock. I would imagine it's real tough to leave things at the rink because you're still thinking about the game and you're thinking about what's coming up tomorrow. And, it's got to be real difficult. I would imagine the city kind of lends itself to give you some of those distractions as well. It's probably changed a lot in, the last, I guess, 10 years since you were first here. Yeah. Has it changed a lot because of the fact that you have a family and you find more areas to escape, or do you just think it's changed in general just with everything else?
I think a combo of both. When I was here during camp, my family wasn't here with me, and I was driving around with some of the younger guys, and I felt like the old dad taking all their kids on a tour of their old hometown. They're like, this is where I went to school, and I was like, oh, this is where they're, South End has totally changed, right? And so I was like, this is where I used to live, and nothing used to be here. This is where I used to eat, and they had a good laugh at that, and that was when it was like, oh man, I really do sound like an old parent right now. But, it's just changed so much in 10 years that, and for the better. We really love it. We loved it 10 years ago, and it's just gotten better and better. But the other side of it is that we do have 2 kids now, and our oldest he goes to daycare or school couple days a week. So we're doing that, and you just see a little bit different side of Charlotte that I didn't quite see the last time around. Probably saw a couple more bars and that scene than I am now. So it's I feel like this is a city where any age, wherever you're at in your life, you can find things to do, be it at Uptown with the baseball team, the football team, us, South End, if you want to get a little bit more social, or you want to find a little bit quieter, some parks, golf. It checks a lot of boxes.
It really
in my
does.
eyes.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was here, the first summer that I was here, 35 years old, and everybody is like, we're going to go to South End on a Saturday night. It was like 9:30, and I'm like, get me out of here. Like, I can't do this. I can't hang with the young kids anymore. But, you find your pockets and you find your areas to hang out. Where are you guys spending most of your time with the kids? I mean, where have you kind of settled in?
We've found a spot in Dilworth that we're living at right now. It's really good. We're close to a park. We have a little backyard, a couple restaurants, some grocery stores close by. It's about 10 minutes to here in the morning for me. 15 minutes to drop the little guy off for school in the morning. So we love it. It's close enough to South End where if we want to get over there and walk, it's 15 minutes, but far enough away where we don't run into the Saturday night, the Friday night scene. And so it's very quiet, but also close enough where if we want to get out and parents want to go out for dinner or something later and have a babysitter, then we can do that too. So it's we've really found a nice pocket, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
To jump back in your playing career, one thing, as once you signed and I was going through all of your stats and everything, one thing that I thought was interesting, you went the college route. Being someone born in Canada, you played in the BC and then decided to go the college route. What made that decision? Why Cornell? Why did you go that route?
I was drafted to a team that was like a 15-hour drive from where I'm from.
Whew.
And I was a homebody.
Yeah.
So that was going to be a difficult one to begin with. It was a small town out in the prairies. Nothing against that, but it was just going to be hard for me at that age. I don't think I was ready to do that big of a move and fully commit to just playing hockey. So I did my senior year, my grade 12 year, I played junior A, which is tier 2, which opens up your options. You can still go to college. You can still go to the major junior. My brother had just done it the year before I had and went off to college. So I didn't feel like I was ready to play in the major junior at that age. I wasn't big enough. I wasn't strong enough. I was just going to get beat up, and it wasn't going to be a very fun year. It wasn't going to be good for development. So I went to the junior A and ended up being an awesome year. Grew a lot of growth in my game. And then I had the opportunity to talk to a couple schools and fly downs and do that thing. You go down for a couple days and see the university and see the campus life. And, being from Western Canada, I grew up, I didn't know what college was. I've never watched a college hockey game. And so you go on one of those visits and you're like, oh, this is a totally different world that I had never thought about, never knew. So it's almost like you're going into Narnia, it's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Why are they keeping this from us? And so I really enjoyed my visits, and having my brother at Cornell made my decision pretty easy to go there. So I followed him there and did 3 years with him. So it was really probably one of the highlights of my playing / life so far. It was those 3 years I got to spend there. Some friends that I still keep in touch with. You become brothers there. Basically, you're spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together. So it was just an awesome experience.
Was that year in the BC, did that kind of unlock everything? Like, let's say you had a down year in the BC. Do you think your trajectory still would have been college and gone off? Or did that really kind of start to bring things into shape in your mind in terms of what you want to do for the future? Or was that always the goal?
Good question. I'm not sure what would have happened if I think I probably would have stayed in the BC League and done another year there and see what happens after that. Ends up my first half of the year was average, kind of just adjusting to the, playing junior hockey, bigger guys, older guys. You're playing against, some guys are men, some guys are boys, so there's a definite disparity, and so you're trying to find your game and what works, what doesn't. And then the second half was really good, and ended up being drafted out of the BC League, and a lot more doors started opening up, and it was just hockey up until that point in my life. It wasn't, oh, I'm gonna make this a career. I was just, I'm gonna go play hockey here and see how I do. And then that was kind of the year where the light bulb went off of, okay, let's start taking this a little bit more seriously and making sure that we're doing things in the summer and away from the rink that hopefully gets you to the next level. And so that was kind of the beginning of it, was that year in junior.
When did the light bulb go off for you then that pro hockey might be your future? I think everybody grows up wanting to be a pro athlete, right? Myself, the old adage is, if you don't end up becoming a pro athlete, become a coach. If you can't become a coach, become a broadcaster. That's kind of the route that you go. When for you did you really go, okay, this could be, like, I could actually play pro? Was it sometime in college, or when did you really flip that switch and go, that's kind of the goal?
The expectations were put on me basically after that junior, because I was drafted in the first round, and so I was like, okay, this is the label is there. Whether I, in my mind, deserved it or not, it didn't matter. It was there, and so the expectation was there, and that's what I was trying to live up to. And you have a first rounder. You don't want to be a first round bust. You want to make sure that you fulfill what all these plans and thoughts that people have about your game and where you can get to. And so that was kind of it. I'm not sure I was fully thinking like I'm going to play in the NHL for a bunch of years at that point, but I'm like, I better give this my best shot. And it just shows where you are in the grand scheme of things compared to other players and where people think your game is at. So at that point, I hadn't played a whole lot internationally. I just played more or less in BC growing up there, and so I couldn't really place myself amongst my peers. So that was where I was put on the board and said, okay, this is your expectation now. And so that was kind of, I probably expected to play 4 years at Cornell, but at the same time knew that if things went well, I probably wouldn't spend all 4 there, just because that would mean things were going a little bit slower than expected. And I was confident in my ability that I could learn and adapt fast enough. So
the downside of the college route, right, is you're going to be a little bit older if you spend all 4 years in college. Yeah. Once you do break into the pro game.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things. And have you had the chance? I mean, this is something I think people do more, especially as they mature, right? And you're getting to that point. Have you had the chance to just sit down and look back at your career and just go, it's incredible the things that I've managed to do in my career, and not in a self-serving or any kind of way, but just kind of look back and take in some of your successes?
It's hard to at this point, just because that in my mind, that means I'm kind of closing the book on this chapter.
That's fair.
And I am coming more to terms with that. I probably won't play in the NHL or much in the NHL anymore, which is okay, but I'm not ready to look back on it and close my hockey chapter or my playing days yet. So I'll do that one day, and we'll have a lot of good memories to talk about, and they'll come flooding back, I'm sure. But at this point, I'm still so focused on trying to get better out here for my teammates, prolong my career, and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that kind of gets lost, and I try to help with or tell younger guys is like, I know the American League is a great league, but probably not where you want to be all the time, because you're driving and trying to get to the NHL. But like, some of the best years of my career have been in the American League. It's still, it's very much a business in the NHL, and down here, you're still very much a brotherhood, and you still get, it is a business, but you're still tighter. A lot of my good, fond memories are from being in the American League. So just enjoying that process. And like you said, maybe not looking back on your whole career, but looking back on things throughout the year and just enjoying it. It doesn't mean you're not going to show up the next day and work hard, but you can enjoy it. throughout the process.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is I think you as a parent, you recognize the fact that every single day watching your kids grow up, it's a joy. You get something new every single day.
Most days.
Most days, exactly. It's a joy, right? It's a privilege, you know, to watch them grow up and to turn into the people that ultimately they're going to become. And I think sometimes on the occupational side of our lives, we forget to do that. I think sometimes we forget because we're so focused on getting the next step. We're so focused on getting to, that next rung on the ladder.
Yep.
Whereas as a parent, it's the exact opposite. You don't want your kids to grow up anymore. You want them to come back. And sometimes as you become a parent and you're still working in an industry like this, sometimes you get the chance to go, man, if I could go back, if you could go back and talk to Riley in college, what would you tell him? What would you say? Would he believe what you would tell him?
Well, not like you said, I'm starting to see it through how my parents were looking at me growing up, and just if my kids weren't happy or, just so focused on their next accomplishment and not enjoying themselves, then I'd feel disappointed as a father that I didn't implement that better. Right.
Yeah.
And so, just trying to make sure that they enjoy what they're doing. And I've definitely enjoyed this. I've loved it throughout my 33 years I've been on planet Earth. I've loved hockey for 32 of them since I first put on my skates. So, but seeing it through someone else's eyes brings it full circle of like, okay, let's not forget about like, this is a sport, this is a game, this is something that you're passionate about, you love, and why you started playing this in the first place. And don't lose that spark. And so when you see it, like I bring my kid to the rink and I see him at home and he's laying in his bed and he's announcing Zach Dalpe on the starting lineup. I'm like, it doesn't get any better than that. It's just, it's so pure. It's so great. So it really does bring you full circle and you start to see it from a different light. And I think that's been a huge part of why being here, being back where it started for me, having a family and having this experience in a different light has really been like, you go through your ups and downs of the season and, whatever, you have a good year, a bad year, but you see it as just how much love you can have for the game again. And so it's definitely been a really great year in that regard. It's brought back a lot of, it makes my heart melt a little bit talking about, but it's been a really, really special year.
Because you are in a unique position. It's not that unique in the game of sports where someone will come back to a city that they've already played in, but it's very unique for someone to come back almost like two different people. The person you were back in 2010 to 2013 versus the person you are in 2023. It's like not many people get the opportunity to do that. So you're certainly in a unique spot in that regard. And do you think that all of this might be contributing to just how well you're playing on the ice? Because it seems like you're blessed with a great family. You're in a city that you enjoy. It just seems like you're just content and you're just happy. And I don't want to put words or emotions into you, but I do think there's something to be said there for that direct translation to how well you're playing with this team.
For sure. I think, I think every small part of it plays a role. And whether it be the journey where I was full circle, how last year went, and my mindset coming into this year, the people around, the city, ownership, the cons, Tara Black's still here, like people I know and really admired my first go around and still admire and what they do with this team today. I think it all plays a major factor in it. And just to reiterate, just to be able to, I'm glad I'm back at this age and being able to experience it in a different light and to actually soak it up and hopefully do something special here this year and be able to enjoy it just that much more.
What is your role in the locker room with some of these guys? Obviously, you're a dad at home. Are you kind of a dad to some of these guys? Because there's a number of, let's call them father figures that could be in the locker room. But what's kind of your role in the locker room? Obviously, an alternate captain, so that carries some weight to it. But what's your role? What is your persona like in the locker room with some of the other guys?
I mean, you'd have to ask those guys. I'm not sure what my persona is. I'm a little bit quieter, just in general. I'm not going to be handing out advice to every person out there, but I try to lead by example, and I've had a lot of different experiences. I've had, I was in this league 10, 12 years ago. I went to the NHL. I was on good teams. I've been on bad teams. I've been in important roles and not important roles. I feel like I've covered a lot of different areas of being on a hockey team, and a lot of different experiences that you can have in the playoffs. Last year, going to the Stanley Cup final, just a lot of different areas that I've experienced. So, just letting those guys know that if they need any help, or Dalps or Tony have probably been through similar situations and can kind of lend a piece of advice or an ear, even if it's just them venting, just getting some off their chest, that we've probably been there, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and believe in yourself and work hard. And in the end, who knows if it's going to work out, but I'd rather live with that than the regret of not putting your best foot or giving it 100% each and every day and seeing how it goes and just hoping that luck takes over. So I think a lot of people can live with themselves a lot easier if they give it their best and it doesn't work out. I think it's the times when you don't and you come close still and it doesn't work out and you're like, I probably could have done a couple things differently and taken care of that, and things would have been better. But that's what we're trying to do here this year, is make sure, and the group's done an awesome job. Of late, it hasn't gone as smoothly, but the guys in the room have, regardless of the day, time, whatever it is, have worked their butts off each and every time we're on the ice and responded throughout the course of the year. And so having a group like that, you don't want to let it go by the wayside. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're having certainly a career year and really helping the Charlotte Checkers team make the push for the playoffs. I wanted to thank you so much for the time, Riley. It's great to hear someone like you said, you've been through it all. I feel like if I was an ATO or if I was a PTO, the first person I would try to seek out is someone like you in the locker room and go, what's it going to take for me to make it in this business? So I thank you for kind of sharing with some of the fans and the people that are out there that have never been in a hockey locker room, just to kind of learn a little bit about what it's like, and more importantly, learn a little bit more about Riley Nash if they haven't had the chance to do so. So thank you so much.
Yeah, this is actually one of the first times I've done a podcast or anything of this nature, so I appreciate you having me on here, and thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Riley. That was Checkers forward Riley Nash. This is the Charlotte Checkers podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us where you get all of your podcasts. And if you want to see another one of these, let us know. We'd be more than happy to get another player here so you can learn everything about the Charlotte Checkers. The hunt for the playoffs is on. The push is on. Checkers taking on Springfield coming up this weekend. Plenty more games down the road as well. TJ Shalott, voice of the Charlotte Checkers. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.